Welcome to Blade Talk with Scab and Joe.
Welcome to Blade Talk with your YouTube host, Joe Steele of the Steel Mindset, and Scab of Choir Boys Outdoors. Here we talk about blades, the people who bring them to us, and why we love them.
So sit back, relax, we got a really good show for you.
Let's welcome our hosts into the room. This is Blade Talk with Scab and Joe.
Here on Blade Talk and our corresponding channels, we recognize our U.S. veterans. For all their sacrifices and their struggles, our beloved veterans, you're always welcome and respected. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Blade Talk, everybody. So should I say Happy New Year? Is it too late to say Happy New Year? I always get confused. I always hear different stories about how late is too late to say Happy New Year. But I'll say Happy New Year only because this is our first Blade Talk of the new year. So welcome, everybody, to Blade Talk. I know there's a couple people kind of following in here in the comment section. So this should be a pretty good show. I know it's going to be a good show because we got great guests. And of course, we got Scab. So you know it's going to be a good show. So we have two amazing knife designers. We got Mike Wallace and Andrew Demko. Really glad. And the great thing about them, they're not just random designers. They have a really strong, deep-rooted history together, which is cool. And it's going to be interesting to talk about. We were talking about it off air a little bit. And we're going to talk about that, their designs, their companies they work with, and ultimately, lead up to Cash Siberia and APOC, and what impact I think they personally made on APOC Knife and Tools by being involved in designing knife for them and how they completely changed the whole face of the company moving forward. So without further ado, guys, as you know, dedication and awareness to our veterans. And let's get Blade Talk kicked off with our guests into the room and with Scab. Welcome to Blade Talk, everybody. Welcome, gentlemen. Scab, take it away, my friend.
Guys, welcome in. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Hey, let's do this. Let's make it easy. Mike, if you would, I'd like both of you guys just to introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of get in the meat and potatoes of this thing. Mike, start us off.
Mike Wallace.
Just give us like background, go from there.
Background, started making knives in 7th grade. Used to skip school sometimes to make knives in the garage. That led up to my employment with Cold Steel and was there for about 14 years, give or take. Full-time at Demko Knives now. Do design work on the side for a few other companies. Pretty cool gig.
All right. Andrew
Demko. I own Demko Knives. Started making knives again in 7th grade when Mike and I had metal shop. And it's been really fun, actually.
Well, you boys are just bastions of information. Here's the deal. I just found out when I got into the room that these guys have literally known each other from 7th grade. And before we ever get into it, guys, this is to me, and chat, this is to me what Knife Tube is about and should be about: lifelong friendships and bonds through knives. Most of us either grew up with them, infatuated with them, or whatever, and that's kick-ass. And I just found out just now that Mike works at Demko Knives. So
Yep.
Do me a favor, fellas, and it doesn't matter either way. Kind of let's go back to 7th grade. Tell me how you met, and let's kick this thing off.
Andrew, do you want to take the reins?
I nominated you. Go ahead.
So Andrew and I went to the same school together, and he ended up moving into my neighborhood in 7th grade, and that's kind of when the tail end of Ninja Mania and all that cool stuff was going on. So we had a company that wasn't far from us that used to sell old saw blades and scrap steel and all kinds of odds and ends, and we'd go there and pick up steel and make ninja swords and throwing stars and all kinds of fun stuff. So that kind of started the love affair with knives and making things, and it just kind of took off from there.
And you guys, obviously, now being the same age, how Andrew, how did you end up with Cold Steel? And then after Andrew answers, Mike, you answer for me if you would. How'd you guys end up with Cold Steel?
Together, yeah.
So I was, we were making knives, and finally, actually from 7th grade to I was a senior, I didn't really make a very good knife. And I actually, about 19, right out of high school, 94, I think, I actually could make knives passable for custom knives. And so then I met knife maker R.W. Wilson. He didn't live too far from us. And I went down there, and I went to, then he's like, oh, go to Blade Show with me. He's a real old time knife maker. He made it was Tommy Hawk Wilson. He made the knives, the tomahawks for like Jeremiah Johnson, the movies, stuff like this. He built his own grinders, built his buffers, built everything. So he built me a bunch of stuff. And I attended my first Blade Show, I think in 95. And then I had been going to the Blade Show periodically, throughout that. And then I had a knife. I had a knife that became the Cold Steel AK-47, the foiling knife. Len Thompson, actually, Mike, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went there together. And that was probably
a long time ago.
Yeah, it's probably 2000. And I had a knife, and Len was walking around, and I wasn't at the table. Mike was there, and I walked back to my table, and I see Len, and I didn't know. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him, and Mike. And Len's just like, hey, I own the name AK-47, and I'd like to buy that design off of you and call it the AK-47. So I was like, sounded great, because I was a very young man at the time, and I wasn't selling any knives. So yeah, that, and then after that, I started working. I was an apprenticeship in an electrical union, and then I started doing some designs for them, unrecognized, and prototyping. Then he said, "Do you want to work full time with us?" I said, "I can't. I do, but I can't because I'm in this apprenticeship, and it's 5 years, and I can't. I'm not quitting it." So I worked for them for like 3 years, just did oddball stuff, prototypes and samples that they wanted made. And then after that, he said, "Hey, do you want to work full time and have an R&D shop?" And I said, "Okay." And then probably it might have been 2 years. It was just so busy because Len, we would make stuff for safaris for him, oddball stuff, and Len's killing donkeys. He's doing crazy stuff on these, these safaris because yeah. So we're like, we're making prototype foiling knives, and we're afraid he's going to cut his fingers off because the knives aren't tested, and it's crazy. And you guys know Len, and
the character.
So he goes, you need to hire another knife maker. And I'm like, well, I don't really know all that many knife makers, and there's none local. And then I said, my friend does make knives, And the first thing he asked me are, what are his warrior credentials? And I was like, well, I don't know that he has really too many warrior credentials, but he is a decent knife maker, and you asked me to hire a knife maker, so we're going to have to go with him. So that was it.
As far as the rest is history, as far as what Cold Steel. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I had maybe a 2-year head start, and then I think I was actually a full-time employee for Cold Steel for probably 17 years. So Mike would have had 15 years.
Yeah,
until they sold. And then they asked, there's only 3 people. Well, they kept 4 guys when GSM bought Cold Steel. They kept one of the graphic art guys who they didn't keep him, but he still does their catalogs. They took one of the kids that sharpened machetes from the Cold Steel warehouse, and they wanted to keep us to prototype and design for them. It was kind of like the unsung gold mine of Cold Steel. And I was like, no, I think I've had enough fun working for people. But Mike stayed on and had a joyful relationship there. And here we are.
Let me ask you this before we go to you. And Andrew, we won't say who it is, but I think it was this past time I had dinner with Len, and he told the story of when he met you, or there was another knife maker there at one of the Blade shows who had a problem with one of your designs.
That is correct.
And there was a brouhaha, we'll say, at the table, and Lynn decided to throw in on your side. Is that correct?
Well,
In a roundabout way.
Yeah, I guess so, because when Lynn saw the commotion that particular product cost, that's why he came over and licensed it. Yeah, because Lynn was a fighter.
Yeah.
And his business opponents are his enemies for sure.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
That's definitely the vibe that we got from him.
yeah. Oh, without a doubt. So, Mike, did you get into cold steel with Andrew then? Through Andrew?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, through Andrew.
Do me a favor, Mike. Instead of kind of rehashing that, I was thinking, name a couple of your knives that the folks would be familiar with cold steel. Because you two guys, and Mike, I've said this to you, I know at least through a post, you were one of my favorites at cold steel. And then Demco's a legend, right? I mean, it is. But name a couple of your knives over there.
The very first one I did when I was hired with Cold Steel, I was more like Andrew was the designer and I was kind of like the helper. And the Colossus, which they now brought back as they call it the Immense, I believe.
Yeah.
The Immense. Well,
That
the
was
Colossus is cooler than the Immense.
I made the prototype for that, and Lynn came out and he was totally smitten with it. And then that was like I was finally achieved designer status and I was above kind of helper.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my very first one with Cold Steel. The Bush Ranger series, the Luzons.
Awesome.
Storm Cloud was another one.
Oh, I love that knife, dude.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. I really like that.
I've got mine right. Everything you've named, I've got. But that Storm Cloud, there's just something about it. The Colossus I carry it a lot. The Storm Cloud I don't carry as much, but that's because they've discontinued it.
Yeah. I was sad to see that one go.
Yeah. And I didn't understand. I'll have to ask Luke about the name change, but I love the Colossus. So
yes,
you have any
people are asking actually in the chat right now why they were wondering why they changed the name on the Colossus. So I guess we'll try to address that to Luke.
Yeah, I can't speak to any of that. I'm pretty disconnected with everything they got going on, so I can't chime in on that one.
Well, that's the Storm Cloud.
There she be.
Such a great knife, man. That's such
now, Andrew. Everybody knows you for the law.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the deal. Was that something? How long has that lock been in? How long has the Triad lock been around?
It's coming up on its expiration date, so it's almost 20 years from the application.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a little background into it. How'd that come about?
Well, I had figured out from a very early age, in fact, in 1993, when I was attending art school and I was in designing class, and all I did was design knives and particularly locking mechanisms. And I've made tons of locking mechanisms. None of them are any good except for a few. But and I was making liner locks like every knife maker in the 90s, and frame locks. I believe, there was liner locks, Michael Walker liner lock. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think I'm right. I know a lot about knives. I believe Chris Reeves invented the frame lock about in 94 or 5. It was like everywhere, like the frame lock. And my professors are like, well, this is not an invention. It's the same thing. But I was like, well, it's an invention to me, Blade magazines is an invention. But that changed the lock world as well, making frame locks. And I was making frame locks and I hated them. I hated everything about making them. And since I already had been trying to make locking mechanisms, something really great and strong, and then I took this one thing that liner locks and frame locks have, and particularly that other knives did not have at the time, was a stop pin. Every liner lock and frame lock has a stop pin, whether it's internal or external. And I thought, and I knew because I was a big Hold Still fan, and I was always watched Len's videos of breaking those knives, and I knew where those knives were failing. The standard lockbacks were failing. I knew the problems with the lockback, and I knew by adding a stop pin in there, it would solve the problems if it would work correctly, and it did. Took a lot. It wasn't that easy, but
Right.
we got amazing results from them.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's pretty remarkable. I mean, listen, cold steel is a lot of stuff. Is a lot of stuff, meaning like it has a lot of different faces. But in my humble opinion, I would say that the triad locking system and how you implement it into your folders is pretty much what made cold steel what it is. I mean, it's funny because as soon as people saw you in the chat, one of the first things a couple people were putting in there, best locking system on the planet, guaranteed to never fail, guaranteed to never fail for normal humans. I mean, it's just everybody knows you for the lock. The triad locking system. I must have said triad locking system on my channel about 1,050 times. So, and Scab knows because Scab kind of built his channel on the triad locking system and cold steel.
Good.
I mean, you know, the first knife that I got into cold steel with was this guy, which is the AD10.
Yep.
That was my first. This is the knife that got me into cold steel, and I've been loving it ever since. And just it's an amazing thing. I mean, what that lock did to the whole brand of knives up until today.
Yeah.
So you guys account for a huge makeup of cold steel folders between the two of you.
Yeah.
Let's do this instead of naming them all. What are a couple that neither one of you had anything to do with?
That would probably more so have to be recent stuff or really old stuff. Pretty much everything, I believe if I'm correct, Andrew, pretty much everything that was a folder came out of our shop for 15 years.
And many fixed blades.
Yeah.
Everything after the SRK fixed blade. And
really?
Till GSM, basically, except for the swords. We didn't design swords.
Yeah.
And we built machete prototypes, but we didn't necessarily design the machetes. They were just standard machetes with maybe, I remember remember the two-handed Latin machete handle you made?
Yes.
Len wanted him to use a needle and scribe all the checkering in it. It's like
so here's the question.
Everything went through our shop, and Len told me one time, he goes, Andrew, I'm sorry, I can't give you credit for this. Otherwise, it would be the Andrew Demko catalog, not the Cold Steel catalog.
Yeah,
so,
true.
We have no shortage of design ideas. Although Len is the ultimate idea guy. He is the ultimate. He has more ideas than anybody I've ever seen, and he knows so much. The vast world of knives and the history of knives. Like he'll say, I want to make a whatever, and it's from like, 20 BC Rome or something that I've never even heard of. So, I mean, he is definitely the idea guy, but we're pretty creative.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you guys have a great group, and I never realized when I started the channel, I started my channel on cold steel because I didn't know a lot about. I watched a couple of YouTube channels. And I didn't know a lot about it, but I knew two things. I knew one, I loved cold steel, and it was tough, and I was just finding my way, so I probably wasn't going to break one. I knew that, and I knew people either loved them or hated them.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to get views and clicks and comments either way, right? But the deal is this. I love the friendship. I love the building blocks. And I didn't know, Mike, that you worked there, but that's awesome. So let's talk fixed blades, because both Joe and I are fixed blade fanatics. And let's do this. And we don't have to jump into APOC yet, but I want to use the two Bowies, the Wallace, and I got the Demko. And I want you guys, how do you guys think that you've influenced each other? The top is the Wallace, the bottom is the Demko. And then I want to give you a couple thoughts on it, but talk about the collaboration between you two and what you two have gleaned from each other over the years.
Well, I'll start this off, Andrew. I hope you don't mind.
Please.
I, after high school, Andrew always stuck with knives. He was doing it part-time. He was always like head first in it. And I got into construction and running heavy equipment and doing tree work. And I got into all sorts of other things, other kinds of work in different fields, and stepped away from that for a while. So I think if there's any, I think I would lean more towards, I maybe lean into his styling more than he leans into mine. But we do have very similar taste in knives and stuff. Like, if you gave us a knife catalog from some company, we would probably both pick the same ones that we liked and were into as far as blade shapes and styles and stuff. So there is a lot of similar wiring as far as that goes.
You're like an old married couple. You just kind of become like a like each other. You know, that's it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
No, that's totally true. All of our stuff looks similar. We have the exact same thoughts and tastes in the knives, and even at work, we are thinking the same way. Like, we have 12 employees. There's some people I have to say, like, I have to literally spell things, write things, say things, and I just tell him, like, hey, you need to do this. You know what I want to do, and then that's it. And he'll take it from there. It's just like me doing it, except it's not me. We're on the same wavelength when it comes to anything like that.
So that makes life easy in a way.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's intense moments too. But with just these two knives, there's a couple of things I see like similarities. You both give ample handle. I mean, both of you take care of the hands. And if you can't hold the sumbitch, you can't use it. I'm an avid believer in that. So you both give plenty of handle, and that speaks volumes. But I like the way both of you, there's a very, very, very slight cant in both of them. It's almost unseeable, but it's there. I can see some of the vision from both of you. People won't realize, Mike, this is probably closer to the true original Bowie shape. Back in the day, this was probably as closer than most people get.
Very close.
Very close.
I was just looking at pictures from old ones, and it's very close.
It's very well. Yeah, it's a frontier knife. That's what it is. But you can see with Andrews as well, the blade shape. You can see that there's differences and there's nuances there. I love them both for different reasons, but it makes more sense now with your history. Let's talk about handles. Mike, give me your theory on a fixed blade handle, and then we'll jump to Andrew on the same question.
I always, you referred to that slight cant. I refer to it as a dropped handle. I always like a handle that you have that downward angle.
Yeah.
And just design wise, that speaks to me. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. I like the angles of it when you're holding it in your hand in reference to the blade. Always go for as much of an ergonomically correct handle as I can. I'm going by my hand, which probably is not the same as your hand or anybody else's hand. So it's kind of hard to get that ironed out perfectly, but that's kind of where my head is in all that.
So would you say ergonomics, right?
Yeah.
And then size.
Ergonomic size. I always like to leave a little bit extra so you can kind of get back on it for swinging, choke up close for close up stuff.
Yeah. Well, and people, I've seen this. I've done a lot more here over the last couple of years, a lot more custom makers on the channel. And you see guys that are newer into making knives will make knives to fit their hands, right? And I get it. I do. But you see some of the older guys, the more, let's say, veteran guys, you see start to get that real knack. And now there's some guys that are just spot on. Andrew, talk a little bit about your just hands. Like, what size of hand do you have, and what do you base your handles on?
I would say I have a large hand.
Okay.
And and definitely make my handles for comfortable for me, but I also always think about everybody else.
Yeah.
And I try to, and this actually, it's funny, this handle on this knife, I love this, the 2-finger groove, and then this feature. Although I don't use it that much, but I love it because typically, if left to my own devices, I'll make the handle just like Mike did on his. And I knew we were working on these together, so I wanted to break out my plan B, which this is the handle that, and everybody loves this handle who's ever used it, because I used it on my, you have the AD10 model. That was the custom knife I was making since 2010, thus 10. I made a 2011 model called, believe it or not, the AD11. And it had basically this finger line right here.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I've been using this, and this same shape is on my, currently my AD22 shark lock right now. I brought it back because I'll either just, for me, I want 1-finger groove or 2-finger grooves, and I'm good. But you know, there's a lot of other things you can do. The beauty about this handle is your middle finger is always indexing here. So no matter how big your hand is or how narrow it is, you know, you're not cramped either way because you're coming from the center. You're centering in the handle. Your hand's always in the center of the handle. And then you have, you know, if your hand is smaller, you're not up here so far. If it's wider, you know, you take up more room. But so this is a super universal handle. And you can come back on, it's long, like you said, so you can come back on it and then put your index finger there from your swing at branches and cutting through ropes. That's the grip to go right there. Saber grip with the index finger right in this little, what I call a choil. It's not really a choil. And then if you're working hard, you really get up there and get 3 fingers in there if you can, and put your thumb on this rest right here. And then you can really, really put some pressure into that knife. So both Mike and I have most of our handles. It's a big knife anyway. We always had multiple positions. If I swing at rope, I usually actually do this.
Yep.
But you know, it's further back, so you just get that leverage. But again, you know, when you're trying to make a hot dog stick, this is not so great. You need to almost do this sometimes and hold that. Yeah. So you can get so close to this edge. This is not so fun for this. You know, you're pushing. But we both do that same thing too, because we use knives the same way too. We go around, we hit stuff, make a pointed spear, and then that's it.
Yeah.
We don't go to the Amazon. You know, we leave that to Joe Flowers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Skip, let me ask you a question, Skip, since you had their knives in your hand. Well, I also want to do a side question to you guys is also if there was any prerequisites about working with designing for APOC. If they said, well, you know, kind of geared towards this, or did they say they gave you guys free reign, design what you want, or did they tell you, well, it's got to be kind of size, it's got this type of handle material? Like, did they give you any prerequisites as far as getting into doing designs for that?
I actually brought a few with me to Blade Show and showed them actually this. That is my original sample of the Bowie.
Okay.
And they liked that, and that's kind of what brought us to this. Very similar. Mine's slightly, it's a little bit thicker material for the blade, but the overall shape is the same. Their basic kind of requirements were, you know, they liked a few of the knives, and they kind of like that blend of something that has some historic significance. And that's kind of, I kind of want to pull and kind of like mix the old with the new.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've done that. That's what I was saying. Your blade shape is definitely reminiscent of a historical, and we call it a Bowie, right? And the sandbar fight changed everything, like it often does. But typically back then, it would have been more of a large butcher knife style frontier knife, and then with your handle, you kind of went a different way. Joe, you were going to ask me a question?
In general, as far as probably the first knives that you encountered, because I was talking to them off air about how APOC survival tools was had a certain type of look and feel to them. They were survival tools. They were Gus Trim, which Gus Trim did a great job with all this stuff. But that was it. It was the Gus Trim designs, the walkies, all these survival shit hits the fan type of swords and things like that. And now they implemented these knives. Like what were when you first put them in, like, what were you looking at? Are you saying, well, I don't know how these are going to be, or it is like, what were you most surprised about when you got the knives in your hand? And you've had some amazing knives in your hand, obviously. Like, what were you most surprised about when you held them and started using them for the first time? Either it be the Demko one or the Wallace versions.
I honestly, as far as the designs go, there wasn't surprise because I've used so many of both of their designs, right? So the model fit for both the Demko and the Wallace. I was pleased with the way APOC made the knife. They made it clean.
Right.
They kept it simple. They used basic stuff. If I was going to say impressed, I was more impressed with the execution. I knew what the design would be and could be. And so I think for the price point, I think APOC nailed it, to be honest with you. Because both knives you can do a lot with, and we did do a lot with. And I like the way that both knives have a 90-degree spine. That's important, for me. And it helps it as far as a review. It helps a lot. But I was more pleasantly surprised with the execution, because you know what you're getting with Mike's designs. You know what you're getting with Andrew's designs. They're tried, they're true. So you knew that. So that was my take. I thought they had a home run for what they did. And Mike also had a smash it that I'm really digging. It's right here. This is always fun. And then we had, let me find it. I had one more. Here it is. Now this was Andrew's cleaver. And so I got a Bowie knife designed from each, and then kind of an different tool to review, which I like. That's what the channel is about, challenging. And I want to talk about each. And Andrew, since I'm holding this, talk to us a little bit about this bill hook cleaver.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the funny thing is everybody in the world loves to baton with knives. Fine. Axes are really great for splitting stuff. But, in our market, people want to use and I think it's an American. I think it's just what we do, because we everything is great to us. We want item A to do what item B does, even though item B is designed to do what item B does, but we're going to do with item A. So we are going to baton with pocket knives. We're going to baton with small Bowie knives and Pucos, and the hell with hatchets and splitting mauls and stuff like this.
That's my
I could do it all. So I was really into cleavers. Always liked cleavers, and I really like spiked tomahawks. And if you haven't been out in the woods with a spiked tomahawk and built fires and dug through and use the spike to carry the logs and break into the punked wood and break out all the stuff, the spike works really great for that. Plus, as Lynn will tell you, it will dispatch your enemies. So the cleaver hits hard. You can baton with it. You're not breaking this as easily as you're breaking a regular blade. So you can baton with it. You can dig and pry with it. You can put you can hang it off. If you cut a branch of a tree and just hang it there by your fire or whatever you're doing, you can do a lot of work with this. And, it just hits really hard.
Yeah.
I never held that, but it looks like it's also a pot holder. It also looks like you got a pot holder there.
Well, you know what? Yes. The original ones I made of this, I used to call it a timber rhino. I can't remember what Cass is calling this, because it's been a year or 2 years now. But yeah, that thing can even, I don't drink beer, but it can open a beer bottle. Or it used to anyway. So anyway, yeah, it's just a real hybrid. But I made these just for basically campfire and chores like that.
Right. And to have fun.
I was selling these. And this is an old design. This is from 2004. I was selling these, and some people got great deals because I was selling these and throwing knives, $20 each, 3 for 60.
Wow.
Something like this. It was like 2002, and I had made a whole
Wow.
bunch. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I get back. My wife's like, "Oh, I sold a bunch of your knives." I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Where the hell's all of mine?" She goes, "Well, weren't they 3 for 20?"
Oh, wow.
And then for years and years and years, I saw them on eBay and stuff, and they were like Demco throwing knives. They were like $300 each, and I'm like, "Those things sold for $10 a piece." They were only worth $10 anyway, but still.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right for a wife in the knife world.
She was very proud, and I was happy. So whatever,
Hey, it worked out.
Here's
Mike?
a request: Shark Lock Demco Cleaver. I would buy that. There's a request.
Me too.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Mike, talk a little bit about the Smash It, because this thing was cool and it split Kirk wide open.
Yeah, that was I saw that video, and yeah, so that started out as this. And this was, I had to look back on my Instagram. This is like real thin, like machete style was the original thought behind that. I looked on my Instagram. It was like 2014. I did that original design, and I loved it. Never knew exactly where it should go or what I should do with it, and showed that to Kaz, and they wanted me to make one that was a little bit thicker, a little bit more substantial, double-edged, and my least favorite prototype to ever build, because matching up two grinds on a regular knife is hard, but matching up all 4 sides was a real test, and thankfully the only one had won. So yeah, that worked out good. That was a fun build. Thank God I got it right the first time. Much to Kaz's credit, and Patrick was who I dealt with most of the time. Phenomenal to kind of go through the process and get samples from the manufacturer, and he's like, "No, not good enough.
Yeah.
They need," like, he would ask me my opinion, and he knew more about what needed improved than I did sometimes. He's like, "Nope, they didn't get it right here. They need to do better on this." And like, he really wanted everything to be as close to a custom knife as possible. And that's not easy to do in production.
No.
Easy to do when you have, sandpaper and you can really hand polish corners and stuff. So he was really emphatic about getting it just right. And he did phenomenal with getting these to the point where they are now.
Patrick's an awesome guy,
Yeah,
man.
He is.
Patrick's an amazing advocate for knife users, sword users, and he's very knowledgeable. He really is.
Everybody
Awesome guy.
from Kaz is like, they're like family. They're like the people you want living next to you. They are fantastic people. I love them all dearly. Really great.
I met Patrick through Joe because of the sword thing.
Okay.
And then this past year when I went to Blade Show, I run into Patrick. I think I brought the buoys home from Blade Show, but man, I've got all kind of, what he was doing is giving me stuff he didn't want to take back to Tennessee. So I've got APOC signs and stickers and all kind of stuff. But Patrick's a great guy, and he's helped both Joe and I out immensely. So let me ask y'all this, well, let me back up. Mike, you have the Smash It, you have the Bowie, and you have the 2 Pucos, correct?
Yes. Yep, that's correct.
And Andrew, you have the bill hook cleaver and the Bowie with APOC.
Yes.
Now, do we have anything else coming down the line?
I think that we could.
Okay.
I'm not actively working on anything, but I think that's kind of an open door policy to work with them and do whatever. I don't know what Mike has going on, but
I have one design that is kind of like loosely in the works. I kind of dropped the ball on that. I need to get that sent back to them so they can kind of give it the once over and see what they want to do with it. I would really like to expand on the Smash It line. I think I think one that is more smatchety, that's not double edged, that has like, maybe a grind up to here that's
Yeah.
not sharpened, more authentic smatch it would lend itself well to that for people that really want a smatch it and not a mini Gladius smatch it.
Right.
I'd like to make a smaller one, and I'd like to make a proper Gladius with this handle, this blade, and make an 18-inch, make a monster.
That'd be dope. That would be a really cool thing. I'll tell you this, the Smash It, and then we'll move forward, but the Smash It, this is the Dragoth.
Dragoth, yeah.
And it has the Smash It kind of bloodline in it.
Yep.
Definitely.
This thing is one of my all-time favorites. Jason Dixon designed it, and he designed it for fun, and it runs up, like you were saying, to about here. But you can see kind of the family resemblance. I like the Smash It. I know Kirk's not a biggest fan since he hit himself in the forehead with it.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But
a casualty on
it was funny because he was so mad because he was mad at himself, and he's usually the one that's all about safety, and he's always getting on to me about doing stuff. And man, he looked up. I just started laughing because I knew he didn't get himself too good, Gave him a little love tap. I figured
but he's more of a double-edged weapon guy, though.
Yeah. Well,
That's right,
and
too.
if you're not paying attention and you forget about it, but I like the stabbing capabilities. I'm excited to see what you guys got. Let's Joe, did you have any questions?
How about a folder, guys? With any plans as far as maybe some folding knives? I think that's really one thing that they're really lacking at this point is to get some really good folders. Do you think there's anything in the future, maybe a collab between the both of you, or individual designs for some folders with some really good locking systems and stuff like that? Not that I mean you're gonna give them an Espada type knife, but yeah, maybe an Espada type knife. I mean, because they like all the big crazy stuff too.
Yeah,
You
we've talked about that. It's never they've never happened, but it's probably a good idea.
Patrick, you're listening to this.
10-1 over fixed blades, 20-1. Folders sell 1 over fixed blades.
Yeah. Andrew, talk about the AK-47 a little bit. That's one I've always been. The AK-47 fixed blade has been one I put in the cart a million times, and every time I go to pull the trigger, I get something else. Talk a little bit about that knife. Where did that kind of come from? The design.
Because I was making, I usually will make a folder and a fixed blade at some point that are the same thing with each other. And we had what we did at Cold Steel was Lynn would come up with a few ideas. He would say, hey, I want you to make this, make a Gladius, make a whatever. So we would do that. And then the rest of the time, believe it or not, it was great working for Lynn. We had a really high budget. He never questioned anything. A lot of times I would buy shit, and even the accountant would tell on me.
Yeah.
Like we bought a heat treat oven. It was like $9,000. That's a lot of money for a knife maker heat treat oven because And I remember this is what the guy told me that was in the office. He's like, "Hey, Andrew bought a $9,000 heat treated oven," and Lynn goes, "Well, he must have needed it." And then that's it. Like he would not, there was no budget really. I mean, there was a budget, but we never even exceeded our budget for whatever we needed. If we needed steel, we needed tooling, whatever we needed, he did not care because, I think probably because he was getting product out of us. But so I only saw Lynn a few times a year. And typically when I would meet them at Blade Show, well, first of all, in January at SHOT Show, not only did we would bring all the prototypes or the samples that he would hand into the manufacturer, but I would bring a bunch of stuff that I or Mike and I had created. For example, like the SR1 Foley knife, it's just one that I just said, oh, let's make a Foley SRK. So that became the SR1. And then the fixed blade AK-47 it's the same knife just the same handle as the AK Triad Lock AK-47. Basically, it just became a fixed blade. And so, there's a lot of ways to grow your lineup like that. So we would always just, I remember Mike was a huge fan of the Bush Ranger handle, which is an old time cold steel knife that became the Bush Ranger folders. The rubber handle, because we had bins of old cold steel stuff. And he was always like, oh, that handle's a great shape. We should make a folding. And you look at it, it would fit a folding knife blade. So that's how that happened. So we had a lot of freedom to just do whatever we wanted and hand it in. And it was very gratifying to come up with an idea that wasn't assigned to you. And then, bang, it's in production.
The Bush Ranger is another favorite of mine. I like the Bush Ranger. This is the Bush Ranger Light. The thing with the Bush Ranger is this: every time I get a new one, I'll run into somebody that needs a knife. And that's seriously, I'll run into somebody like at a bushcraft thing. Dude, I did it last year in January, went to some kind of survival thing, and a guy showed up, and I said, man, let me see your knife. And I never knock anybody's knife, but it wouldn't cut butter. I said, you got a good pocket knife? He said, well, I said, well, I gave him my damn Bush Ranger. I always feel good about it at the time, and then I regret the shit out of it because now I got to buy a new one.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like that you guys did a ton is the light series, because it or the Scout or whatever, right? It let you let you honestly check the knife out, weight, balance, and carry before you stepped up.
Yeah.
And I think you guys were then and now one of the only groups who made a true light or a true Scout. It was the same damn knife, right, with budget materials. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I think there's a monster market for that as well, especially in a day and age where we don't have as many storefronts. You can't walk in and pick up, you can't walk in and pick up a Demco and check it out. But with Cold Steel, with what they did, and APOC does things on a level that I like because they make things affordable. They make things tough. And I think there's a real market for that. I really do. I really appreciated y'all doing that. Because I tried to get a light of just about everything I had, it just works. I like that. I like that whole concept.
Scab, going into the chat, just trying to appease some people in the chat, because obviously it's a Cold Steel live as well, because a lot of the Cold Steel fanatics are out and about when they see these names on screen here. Let's have a little fun with this, Scab. What do you think is Cold Steel's, old and new, let's just say the older ones, okay, the originals, the OGs, what do you think Cold Steel's most powerful folder is? Not powerful meaning like strength, but influential, wow factor, like this is an amazing thing to behold. Like, what do you think would be their most powerful folder? I have it on screen. I'm going to share it. You tell me. Okay, that's exactly what I was going to share right now.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
As far as just, I mean, as far as just overall knife, as far as known for, I'd say the Espada. I think this one opens up a lot of doors. This one's my most viewed knife on the channel. It just is. Good, bad, or otherwise. People see it, and the tough guys get all worked up over it. And the knife guys like us, the knife nerds like us, they get all excited about it. But I would think just from a legendary status, I tell you what would be neat. What do you guys think? What do you think the most legendary Cold Steel folder is?
Honestly, as soon as he said that, my first thought went to the Espada. I mean, that's kind of without equal as far as anything from Cold Steel. She's large and in charge.
Hey, you guys want to see something really neat? Hang on one second.
Oh,
we do.
Please do.
You know what? The one knife, Mike, I always wanted, and I don't even know if I'll ever get one, is a Rajah 1.
Yeah, that was another large folder. That was a great knife too.
Dude,
especially
the Rajah 2 is.
The Raja 2s are nice. They made a Raja 1 for a while that had the bolstered handles that was like the Espada you just had. That was a beautiful knife.
That's kind of one that would be in that Grail category, that Raja 1 for me.
So that Espada is a 6.5-inch Espada.
Right.
I have the first sample I made was a 9-inch Espada.
No way.
Oh wow.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Oh,
wow.
man.
I still have it.
Holy.
So that was a
hardwood,
sample. That was a sample that never was produced then.
This is because he said make me into Navaja, and that's really kind of a Navaja.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That'd be a little truer to the Navaja, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Size wise.
Yeah. But then it's like he's like, you got to make it shorter. Because it was just too, you just know we couldn't fit in any pocket. So then he goes, make it 6.5 inches, and then but there was that exact choil that's sticking down, that sub hilt that's down there was exactly out of that antique book, and I just saw all these cool the Espadas and stuff were Navajas actually, and then that's what came out. And those were amazingly strong. We had an engineer that wrote to us, said, do not produce that knife. There's no way a lock can be that strong. People were going to cut their fingers off.
Yeah.
We've never, to my knowledge, since we were at Coastal, we never had a failure. We never had nothing. They were the first knives that, the production knives that, were like, they were holding 2,000 or 3,000 inch-pounds on the lock. Amazingly strong.
Yeah.
And cutting cutting 4 pieces of 1-inch rope, just amazing.
Yeah. They're stupid strong. I mean, that's the only way I know to put it. This one. This is the AUS 10 version. Mm-hmm. And one day I was at work and I had the dunnage. It's that landscaping timber. It's like a 3.5 by 3.5, but it's pine. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, and I always like to chop, so I chopped it with this. I think it's still in my catalog somewhere. I think it was like 15 or 20 seconds. This thing chopped through it. Not a chip, not a roll, it went through it better than the vast majority of the larger fixed blade. Larger fixed blades. And I think it's because of the weight, the leverage, the thickness behind it just ate it up. Yeah. And they're awesome, man. I love these.
They do a great job with that AUS 10, man. Just
let's do this. Andrew, you first. What's your favorite all-time folder that you designed?
Cold Steel wise?
Any.
It's my Megalodon folder for sure.
Okay. What was the inspiration there?
Something that could stab through anything and chop through anything and cut through anything. It's big like those Espadas.
Just something nasty.
Yeah, like if you could only have one and you might have to fight a grizzly bear, a polar bear, or a person, or build a shelter, or gut a fish, or whatever. Book of Eli kind of shit.
Yeah.
Is that available right now at all? No.
We've only made a few of those. It is going to be a production at our facility, a USA production.
Oh, good.
Sweet. That's going to be dope. Mike, what's yours?
I'd probably have to say the Bush Ranger.
Maybe
kind of that, the Storm Cloud, and the Immortal are kind of my top three. I think the Bush Ranger, just because it's the most universal out of there it is. A little more guidance inspiration.
The Immortal, I'll tell you this, the Colossus, I just got one last year too. That's amazing. The damn, this thing, I'd say the Colossus, Mike, I'd say if I had to pick one, my favorite of yours is going to be the Colossus. Big
it's an oddball.
Then the small one would be the Storm Cloud. Andrew, I think my favorite of yours is going to be the 5 Max because that thing's just damn.
Yeah, it's cool.
Dude, that some bitch there is just.
This is really
It's a game changer.
You know what?
You know what I'm saying?
I was talking to Scab about it, and it's funny that he mentions basically there's no knife shop, so it's hard to scale like how big the damn knife is, and especially when you hold it next to like this is the Scout, and you think the Scout was always a big knife, but when you put it next to the Scout,
Yeah.
I mean this is like a little fish in a big shark pond. You know what I'm saying? It's a pretty damn big difference there between the Scout, you know, the 4MAX, which is pretty much same frame, and the 5. But I mean, it's just a spine. Let's talk about big knives a little bit, because given that you have such a big history with Vic Lynn, Vic Lynn, thinking about Work Tough Gear, Lynn Thompson, and how did it come about as far as big knives? Like, was it a joint effort? Was it like Lynn's idea to say, I want a huge folder, I want this size blade on this folder, I want, like, how do big folders come about?
Well, Lynn, now that's all Lynn, because Lynn will tell you that a big folder can do everything a small folder can do clumsily.
Yeah.
But a small folder can never do everything the big folder can do. And mainly he's talking about combat.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And in martial arts and in knife fighting, if you have, like, when you see guys, sorry guys, but when guys are holding the stuff like this, like on movies, Lynn will kill you. He will fight. If you're giving up, say we're on day 3 of knife fighting. You have a 7-inch knife. I have a 4-inch knife. You're going to beat me 99 times out of 100 just from that 2-inch difference in that knife. So when you have a big folding knife, say that, for example, the original Voyagers that were 6-inch Voyagers, you're holding into that handle, you now have a 12-inch reach, 12-inch. Basically, you have, if you're holding 3 inches, 4 inches of the handle, you know, you have like 7-8-inch knife. And most even fixed blades people were carrying aren't that big. So that's why the Lynn had like the 6-inch tie light. It's all about the reach. The people were cut before you're even in range, because Lynn is 100% knife combat.
Yeah.
And I've seen that work.
I don't think people really get that about Lynn. Like, that dude's whole philosophy is about knife combat. When it comes to knife,
he trains every day.
And he's passionate about it. Passionate. I mean, just when we went to dinner, it really struck me then how much his knife designs are based on knife combat, right? But here's the amazing thing about that, guys, and both of your designs, they're functional across the board, right? So they're great for knife fighting, but you can do other things with it. Now, if you ask Lynn, or try to ask Lynn, he don't want to hear this about the knife fighting, but I like the fact that you can do a lot of different things with it. This is, you know, and they just make kick-ass stuff. That's the thing. And I think that's what the knife world really needs is kick-ass knives and fun knives. Not everything's got to be super serial. The world's going to hell, and you know, not every day has to be that. It's not for me. It's not going to be for me. So the big stuff is fun. It's fun.
That's why to smash it. They're just fun. They're fun knives. The cleaver, they're just fun knives. Like, sometimes it's just about also, you know, listen, it's boys' toys. I mean, people who are into blades, who grew up with blades, they're like an extension of your childhood. It's just toys. So it's like, just, you look at it like, this is cool. I mean, I can have fun with this thing. And we need pieces like that, like Scab said. I agree with that 100%.
We need a ton of. Hey, I'm gonna grab my Colossus real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I want to see that Colossus there too. But this is just when Cold Steel sent this over to me, this thing really just took me back, man. This 5MAX is really something else. I mean, just the locking mechanism combined with the the spine and all that. It's just, I mean, what was your inspiration? Did you just want to basically make another edition that was just bigger, better, stronger type of thing, or?
Because just designing is just like my hobby.
Yeah.
So, originally I had the 8010, and then I tried to make an XL 8010, but it just no matter what, the handle would not work by just making it, because they all the 4 Max, 8010, 5 Max, they basically have the same blade.
Yeah.
So once I made that blade a full 4-inch blade, I wanted a 4-inch 8010 because the 8010 is actually about 3.5. The handle would just not work. So I had changed all the handle around, and I couldn't. And I made a couple customs like it, and they were I don't know whose hand they fit, but the guys liked them. But so I changed, and it became the 4 Max because I considered that the maximum performing 4-inch knife there was. So maximum performing 4-inch knife I could make. And then of course, if you have a 4 Max, you'd have to have a 5 Max.
Yeah.
And I only made about 6 of those in customs, and they were like 1/4-inch 3B. They were pretty awesome.
Well, what I like about your designs, I mean, I like everything about your designs, but specifically when I hold the 8010 and I see the most recent 5 Max, the spines, how similar the spines are. Like your spine on your 8010 as far as that reinforced tip, almost like in Japanese terms, that unokubizakuri, like that diamond, right before the tip. You did that on the 8010, and I see that on a lot of similarity on the 5 Max. Obviously, you got the jimping there, but I just love the fact that you respect the tip, and you respect the fact to make it that tough of a knife. It's for piercing and things like that. And if shit hits the fan, it's a knife it's a folder you can rely on if there's an emergency. And that's what I really, really love about these knives. It's just a matter of having something that powerful in your hand. Go ahead, Scab.
No, I agree. The 4 Max, 5 Max is insane. This is the Colossus, obviously. This is this was a Grail, and one of the guys that watched the channel was unbelievably gracious and gifted it to me.
That's
but
awesome.
This is a knife, man, that had a real profound effect on me. I watched Advanced Knife Bro. He's been around Knife Tube forever.
Love that guy.
Oh, he is awesome, dude.
Yes.
Mark is awesome. The video on this knife sold me on this knife, and I wanted one. I like the handle. I like pistol grip handles. I always have. And I like the belly of this blade. It slices. Obviously, the wave thing there, I love that. The triad lock. This is just a badass knife. And the spear point, it's dope. I'll tell y'all the truth, and this might be something y'all could work on. Joe, get that off me, man. My eye will be floating and everybody be making fun of me. I'd love to see a fixed blade version of this. I think that would be dope. I really do.
Cool.
I really do, man. I think that would be so badass to do a fixed blade version as far as like a hunting and an all-around knife. I really do. That could be a great Demco knife, I think.
I don't have it. I ended up selling it to a friend of mine who hounded me for like a year or two for it. I made a cleaver that had that handle on it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty awesome. I kind of regret getting rid of that. I wish I would have held on to that one to reference in the future.
Yeah. But you sound like me, man. I do stuff like that, and then I'm like, why the hell did I do that? So I think that you guys need to do a fixed blade that way. I think I'm excited. I want to say thank you to both of you, and I'm not wrapping it up, but we can wrap it up if we need to. I really appreciate you guys being with us. I've learned a lot. We started this whole Blade Talk thing to bring you guys to Knife Tube, where people can actually hear your thoughts, hear stories, hear those things. And you guys have been amazing, and I am appreciative of that. I think that you are the embodiment of what Knife Tube should be. You guys have been together since 7th grade. Now, don't come up with some lame ass stuff. Y'all get in a fight and all that. But I think you guys are really what it's about. And I really appreciate you being here. Joe, do we need to do anything from the Peanut gallery?
No, not really. I mean, as far as we approaching basically APOC and knowing that you guys are just going to continue designing for them and yeah, it's been a pleasure to hear your stories, and like Scab said, just to see that relationship started with Blaze and just that whole brotherhood of the big thing, that the whole phrase that people throw out there. And it's a great thing because listen, with all the crap that goes on in the world at any given day, at any given year, to know that we could all get together and put aside all our differences and just we're all joined in this one room, in this one place, just to talk about blades. I'm not saying now, but in general, it's a great thing. And you guys, like Scab said, are an embodiment of it. And we appreciate you guys 100%. We appreciate your designs. I mean, I love your knives. I mean, Andrew, I can speak for whatever I've had in my hand. I mean, I've never spoken to you, but I gotta tell you, I've loved all your knives. The 8010 has been in my pocket pretty much at least once a week for going back 6-7 years now. And a couple people sharing the same sentiment. We thank you for your designs. We thank you for sticking with it and doing such a great job. I mean, and just being so successful in what you do. And we're all excited as far as even with Demco knives and all 8020s and all the great designs and knives you got going on there. So we appreciate you guys 100%.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And listen, we tell this to everybody, and I guess everybody thinks we're bullshitting. But the truth of the matter is, if you have some things coming up, if you have some knives you're wanting to drop or do, you can use the platform. We'd love to debut them here. We don't ask for shit. We'd love for you guys, if you got some new stuff coming up, come back. Let's talk about it. Because that's what people like. People like seeing and hearing your thoughts.
Yeah.
They see me and Joe every day, every single damn day. But they'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'd love to have you back. And Joe, you've always been an 80-10 guy, haven't you? You've mentioned it a lot, but I mean, that's been
I have always just loved this knife. I mean, it just says, when something vibes with you, I mean, this just vibed with me as soon as I put it in my hand. For some reason, it fits my hand perfectly. It's great. I love the blade. It's just everything about it. I've always vibed with this knife.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let me do one more plug for APOC. And for you guys in the chat and for folks watching this, APOC Survival Knife and Tools. Now, neither Joe or I are the QVC, but those guys do an amazing job. And they're really good for the bang for the buck. And they got all kind of shit. I like to see the collabs. They're doing collabs with you guys. They've done collabs with Jason. Is Jason Breeden, right?
Breeden, yeah.
Yep, just had him on. So they're up in their game, and we're glad to see that. Joseph, ring us out.
Yeah, guys, again, reinforce. I mean, yeah, we would love to have you guys back to maybe talk about, what's going on, even with just aside from Cat Siberia with Demco knives. I mean, anything new coming in. We appreciate it again, you guys being here. Thanks for everyone in the chat that joined us. If you have any other questions or anything, I guess put it into the comment section. We'll try to get that answered for you. But thank you guys for being here. Much appreciated. And hopefully I see you guys at Blade Show. You going to Blade Show, Mike?
I am hoping to, one way or another.
Yeah, this year I think, and Scab, we got to talk about that. This year I have to reserve that room. This year I think I have to make it my business to get down to Blade Show, so it would be a pleasure to meet you guys there as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Scab, Mike, Andrew, thank you guys for being here. Guys, stay in the room before as I close off the live. Thanks for joining us on Blade Talk with Scab and Joe, guys. I appreciate you guys being here with us. There's quite a few people in the room, but we got to kind of close it off. And again, we'll see you in the next Blade Talk or on our corresponding channels, obviously our next videos. And thanks for being here, guys. See you soon. Ciao.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.